closer. So let's start off. Stephen A. Smith made a very, very bold comment today. He said, and somebody correct me if I'm getting something out of whack or I'm stating something wrong, but my man said that this young lady that most of us love, Serena Williams, is the third greatest athlete of all time. Okay. Now, I think this particular claim is very important for us to put into the proper context, right? So when a lot of people say the greatest athlete, like I know what I mean when I say it, but I found that in having this type of conversation with people over the years, they sometimes take it a different way. When I say somebody's the greatest athlete, I'm purely talking about their combination of speed, strength, ability to change direction, that sort of thing. I'm talking about pure athlete. I'm not talking about their accomplishments. I'm not talking about how much they won or lost. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about pure raw athleticism. So that's what I mean when I say it. That's the reason why I say LeBron James is the greatest athlete to ever play in the NBA. It's the reason why I say LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes, period. I'd put him in a category where like it's him, it's Bo Jackson, it's probably Will Chamberlain, all things considered, with crazy. The size and they're in that category. So to say that Serena is the third, now, like, I don't know, what did you take from that when he said that? Did you think he was talking about just physical?
Yeah. So when I look at athlete, right, I think about the traditional term, you know what I mean? Where you think of Olympians, right? You think of Hercules in the trials, the guy who runs the fastest, or girl, who runs the fastest, jumps the highest, is the most flexible, the things that you would apply, that you would say, I want their traits above everyone else's traits when applied to whatever the athletic competition is. Some people take it as the most dominant competitor, right? The person who dominated their field, where you start to get into pound for pound. Right. So when you say pound for pound fighter, you might talk about Floyd or, Sugar Ray Robinson or something like that. And you saying pound for pound because in a straight up fight, they couldn't have beat Muhammad Ali, right? Like Muhammad Ali would take their head right off their shoulders. Right. But Muhammad Ali lost more than some of the pound for pound people that are ahead of him on the list.
Yes.
So you get into this kind of who was more dominant kind of thing. Here's my issue with that. I like the traditional view for this reason. It's without context.
Absolutely.
So if I said to you, the greatest athlete ever was Usain Bolt, my argument is find a human being who's ever been faster than him. And you can't. Now, if you say, well, my greatest athlete isn't all about speed, you could bring up the strongest person ever or the most flexible person, because these are all traits of athleticism.
Exactly.
When we get into sports and competition, the context starts to happen of who did you go up against. And the thing is, like Roy Jones Jr., who I think is a very interesting guy, because Roy Jones on his own, you could easily make an argument. Like if somebody said I think that's the best boxer ever.
Yep.
I'd be like, man, I've seen Roy Jones.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
But who did he fight? He can't control the era in which he came. So same thing with Serena Williams. Her dominance it's awesome on her. And listen, as a tennis player outright, you look at the female athletes who've played tennis, she's better than all of them, hands down. And that's super dominant. But there are male tennis players. And when you're talking about actual athleticism, Roger Federer is so great.
Yeah.
Are we going to punish Roger Federer because there are other great male tennis players that he played against and has to chase the history of? Because she didn't have a Rafa Nadal.
No, not really. Here's the thing. Here's a strange. Okay, so let me preface this by saying I've been a big time tennis fan ever since I was like 6, 7 years old. Like Bjorn Borg, Boris Becker, Pat Cash, Stefan Edberg, Jennifer Capriati, I remember when she broke in, she was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I've always loved tennis, right? So I'm not coming from a standpoint of somebody who doesn't pay attention to tennis. So I say that to say, you're absolutely right. Federer had a rival for which to compare himself to, and to go up against. And this was the guy that they were 1 and 2 in seedings for Grand Slams, pretty much for a very long, a consistent piece of time. And if it was on clay, you pretty much already knew Nadal was probably going to beat Federer. If he beat him on clay ever, it was a shock, right? But generally, Federer had the edge on grass and hard court, right? Serena, clay, like most Americans, clay is her weakest surface. But Serena was at a place, and throughout her career, and you can even make the case right now, when Serena's right, nobody beat her. When Serena would have these missteps that could happen against anybody, where she might implode emotionally or something to that effect. But physically, somebody being able to match her, there's never, not even her big sister. You know, nobody physically could match her. If Serena lost, it was because she had a bad day, and you could probably trace it to some sort of mental slip up at some point. Because if you watch Serena is a uphill, and hopefully I win before this happens. Because her plan A is so strong that most people can't get past the plan A. But when things start going like this for Serena, she has almost never can right the ship. It's usually just down, down, down. That's generally the way her game goes. But she's just so good, so dominant. She has far more days where she's this than she's that. But I almost want to give some credence to Stephen A. Smith's point, because I can literally say that physically there was nobody. She had no peer. She has no peer
amongst women.
Right, exactly. And I think it's only fair, of course, to, if you're going to put this, if you're going to have a situation where you're going to judge athletes and you're going to include both genders, to me, you have to judge that athlete by people in their gender. You can't try to expect Flojo to have the same 100-meter time as Usain Bolt.
Well, see, and that's why I say this is more like a pound for pound discussion. So if you say she's pound for pound the whatever greatest athlete, now I still don't know if I agree with that, because
I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
We
if
have
I would
an American
agree with that.
sports bias, even though tennis technically is an American sport. She's an American athlete,
yes,
right? But we literally aren't even going to discuss soccer. Right? Like, we're not even going to bring European football into it, even though that's the biggest sport, you know, in the world. And we also don't speak about pure athleticism, like swimming, like track and field and stuff like that, which, when you say athlete, you usually mean feats of athleticism.
Yeah.
In terms of feats of athleticism,
Mark Spitz.
It gets crazy, right? So
Matt Biondi. Michael Phelps.
So I think Michael Phelps, right? Like, so I think there are athletes that played sports who were also tremendous athletes, like your Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron, Michael Jordan, also tremendous athlete, like you said. Bo Jackson, those guys. Herschel Walker is crazy athlete, right?
Herschel Walker's 56 years old, and he's a better athlete than most people in the world right now.
Crazy.
And that's not even a lie. That's not even an exaggeration.
No, he don't even make sense.
Yeah.
And there's a few athletes like that throughout history that you genuinely look at them, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know? I think Bill Russell was an underrated athlete. Like,
I think
when you actually watch film of him, you're like, whoa, that guy can play.
Watch him go in the end.
Yeah, it's crazy. Right? It was like actually crazy. So I think applying the term athlete, no. Applying the term competitor, it gets interesting from there, because I have, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, definitely ahead. And then there's a lot of boxers. I would put John Jones there. I mean, really, I think John could be number one, to be honest with you. John has probably the greatest reign of terror I've seen an athlete have besides Michael Jordan. in my personal lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider the fact that John's in there by itself, it
Well,
kind of
I don't think so. Here's the thing: you're a big MMA fan, watch it from
right.
time to time. You have another podcast talking about combat sports.
Right.
Who's better than John? Forget pound for pound. Just who's better than John Jones?
The only person that I even consider to be in the same category is Demetrius Johnson. He's the only.
Well, you're saying pound for pound. I'm saying take pound for pound off the table because Demetrius Johnson went in the last 35 seconds in the ring.
Oh, you mean who can
in the octagon?
Who could fight John Jones and beat him?
Who's better? Like that's because I think John Jones is not only the best, over like in his division, but I think he might be the best fighter to have stepped in the octagon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, who could beat him straight up?
Well, yeah, who like that's what I'm saying. So you're saying if John Jones had a fight with any of these guys, who could beat him? I don't know that anybody could, and the reason being is because he's at a size where nobody's going to be just totally too big for him.
Right. Exactly.
And you know what I'm saying? So, and then the smaller guys are too small.
Right. And again, in his own division, John Jones has never been defeated. Right. He has a no contest on his record. That was a terrible referee call, but that's still not a defeat. Right.
Right. No, and they've actually been trying to get that removed and reversed because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
The guy was dead, and they let him elbow him until one of the elbows had a bad angle. That's terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are saying Mighty Mouse, but Mighty Mouse, he has a controversial loss on his record.
He has more than one loss. Early on, when Mighty Mouse was fighting in bantamweight, he took some real losses. He lost to Dominic Cruz straight up. Now he's never been stopped. But once Mighty Mouse found his division, which is flyweight, the only loss he has is a controversial one to Henry Cejudo that I actually scored for him. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, like you said, it's not pound for pound, but Mighty Mouse is 6'3". That's a great fight. It's a great fight.
I would say it's a great fight, but at the same time, things change when you grow.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I'm saying, assuming that he brings the same.
But that's a tremendous gift to give somebody, right?
It is because literally the dude.
That's like saying if Allen Iverson was 6'6", would he be better than Kobe Bryant? Well, if I give him the gift of also having the speed of a guy who's 5'11" and 160 pounds, then yeah, maybe. But he's probably not because nobody else has, right?
Right. And there's nobody 6'3" that moves like Mighty Mouse.
So because of John Jones, I would have to say she's definitely not top 3 because I can't put her above Mike, Tom Brady, and John Jones. So those are probably it with my American sports bias because I definitely don't follow soccer, and we're pretty much not talking about the Olympics because the amount of time that Olympians compete for is so comparatively short to a professional athlete, right? Like they have roughly 8 years usually of actual competition in terms of the Olympics, and then in between those 8-year blocks there's like world games and stuff like that people aren't even always taking quite as seriously because of how they're training around the Olympics. So if we're disqualifying just straight up athleticism and we're only talking about sports, we're only talking about competition, I still have Mike, Tom Brady, and John Jones ahead without a consideration of discussion.
Yeah, like if I just go from pure athleticism, I can easily see her as top 5. If it's just pure athleticism, I actually don't know if there's ever been a female athlete. Jackie Joyner-Kersey's close. And the reason why I say Jackie Joyner-Kersey's close, because Jackie Joyner-Kersey excelled in multiple sports on a professional level. Because not only is she one of the greatest track and field athletes of all time, she also played professional basketball. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Wilma Rudolph is another amazing athlete. But I could argue that none of them is freakishly as strong as Serena Williams.
Yeah, Serena is absolutely wild.
So it's a really interesting discussion. I do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's preposterous. I'll put it that way. Even though I might have somebody else ahead of her, if you tell me Serena Williams is the 3rd greatest athlete of all time, I'm not gonna say that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Stop talking to me. I'm not.
Well, for me, is she the pound for pound 3rd greatest competitor? That is the discussion I'm willing to have. In terms of athleticism, I say everything's off the table. I don't care how big, how small, whether you're a man, you're a woman. If we're just talking about athletic feats of humanity, I'm not trying to hear what your division was. I'm just trying to hear how great you were.
Yeah.
You know, and what your peaks were in terms of speed, strength, agility, endurance, the things that we consider, because I think that's a different topic. That's why I don't like the term athlete in that discussion.
Gotcha.